Thank you for viewing this YouTube archive of a Conscious Consumer Network broadcast. Please feel free to share it far and wide. Check out our weekly broadcast guide for weekly updates on scheduled broadcasts. Help keep us on the air by contributing to our network support fund. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter or get in touch via email. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
Okay, welcome again, everybody. This is my second radio show here, and I've got a real special guest today, a dear friend and brother, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Thanks for the responses, everyone. It was really cool hearing everybody in my 1 hour monologue, my first show, but I like I said, we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff. And I'm still learning about this, whereas my guest, Max Igan here, he's an old pro at this, and he's been on hundreds of radio and television interviews and done amazing documentaries, amazing work, a committed activist, man with a really massive, big heart for the world and doing everything he can to help. And I'm honored to know him, and I'm really glad he got to join us today. He's got his website, thecrowhouse.com. Don't miss it. He's been influential in changing many people's lives, many of whom have contacted me personally about it and told me amazing stories. So I'm really proud of what he's done. He's really influenced me as well, and I'm very appreciative, and I know a lot of people are. How are you, Max? I hear you're down there in Peru.
I am, mate, and you've called me right as the plane's flying over. You get that here in Peru. But it's great to be here, man. It's great to see you've got your own show. It's about time that you got out there and started doing this. I mean, your blogs have reached millions of people, and I'm sure that all the fans of your blog are going to be happy that you've got your own show and tuned in for it. And it's great that you've asked me on. It's great. It's a real honor to be here. I was going to on my show, so I think I can do that at a later date now.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to kick it off with a bang, get a really top man here and to share his wisdom and insights. And I'm looking forward, man. We got 3 events coming up together. We're going to be at Acapulco coming up in 2 weeks. And then we've got Portland together in late April. And then we're going to be in the UK together.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be in the UK. I'm not sure what's going on with that yet in the UK. It looks like I might end up being in the UK in May with you again, though. That'd be great. It's going to be good to be at Acapulco. I'm really looking forward to it. There'll be a lot of good speakers there, and I'm really looking forward to the event. I'm looking forward to making contact with all these people.
Yeah, same here. It's a good chance to network and get a real pulse on people and meet some really fantastic people who are doing amazing work. It's going to be an interesting year, this 2016. Everybody's feeling it. It's really strong stuff going on. It's kicked off with a lot of, I think a lot of people are going through personal changes at the same time and big decisions, moves, and we're seeing it in the world news. It's the usual nonsense going on. Things come to light, and as you know, I like to talk about the awakening. It's happening. It's obviously for a massive awakening, that's a pretty big long shot, but it doesn't take that many to really bring about significant change and exposure, which changes the course of this whole juggernaut.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that. I'm really hoping we're going to see it. They're really ramping it up. In Australia, it's out of control. The police are just out of control. They're pulling over drivers willy-nilly and giving them random drug tests now, testing for cannabis, all sorts of stuff like that. They're pulling over people who simply change their route and go a different route. They pulled over a builder a couple of weeks ago because he'd gone to visit the next town 3 times 2 weeks, and they just noticed on all the surveillance cameras that this particular person had changed his routine, and they thought it'd be his dealer or whatever. So they pulled it journey and pulled his truck apart and searched everything, you know, like a SWAT team. You know, and they said, oh, it was just because we noticed that you'd changed your routine, you know. So this is how much surveillance they're actually carrying out in Australia now. And with bringing in mandatory vaccinations and all this doing, it's coming to people's backyards, you know, people are seeing it. You know, we've got militarised police everywhere. And it's the uniform for the global police, you know, this black uniform with the Kevlar and all this. It doesn't matter where you go to France, go to UK, go to Australia, go to America, it's all this black Kevlar uniform. This is the global police force. This police is essentially a private army that the nations put together to protect themselves. It's not to protect us. You know, it's to protect themselves from this great awakening that's happening. So it's what to do about it. And really what I believe we've got to do is get motivated on the ground in our own communities, identify a problem in our community and then go for the throat with that problem. You know, use that problem in your local community to unite people and then go for the problem. That's what Full Circle Project's about. You're well aware of Full Circle and the Community Connector and what we're trying to do with that. You know, we've got to get these action groups on the ground and get people motivated to get off the internet, actually get out there in their communities and make a difference, you know, because, you know, the privilege is swinging shut, brother, and we've got a very, very limited with which to do this. I think the most important thing we can do is to try to reach the youth, get them off their mobile phones, get them away from MTV and all this dance culture and party culture they're pushed into, and get the youth motivated. You know, remember the difference we made back in the 60s with the anti-war movement that was going on then before the CIA came along and circumvented it. But, you know, the youth is a powerful force to be reckoned with, and it's getting the right information into their hands because it's their future that people from our generation are trying to fix, you know.
Yeah, and those who get it really get it beautifully. It's astounding. I had a long conversation with Benny Wills of Joy Camp yesterday on Skype, and just a wonderful guy. And he credits his motivation for becoming active and putting together the Joy Camp idea to you. He's one of those people that he you know, your website and your videos, he said they just opened his eyes, and that was his vector. He came in and he's beautifully motivated. He's on a dieta right now. He's going for the experience. And beautiful guy. I invited him to come. I'm hoping after England we can head over and have another Full Circle meeting over in Spain, which I think would be really cool. I talked to Luis about it today. Luis, who's the coordinator of Full Circle Project. That's fullcircleproject.net. And if you haven't been there, please go and at least get on the community connector, folks, because you'll find people in your area. There's over 15,000 people now signed up, and it's picking up more momentum all the time. And you'll be surprised who'll connect with you. It's got secure communication procedure. It's a terrific tool. So be sure to use it. But Benny, a terrific guy. I'd like to see him come over and we hook up and talk to him more, because he's from that next generation. And man, does he see it. He's seen it his whole life, like many of us. But now it's coming to fruition, and he's looking for more ways to make a bigger difference. And you know, he's trying to get, you know, inside the more major media with his talent, and he's meeting some success. But he's also seeing it's all about community activism, like you're saying. It's about getting people really motivated. He's a terrific speaker too, so I really want to help him get rolling out there. But the next generation, I'm with you, man. They've got it, and the tools are out there. But like you said, we need to get it in their hands, any specific form that we can, and hopefully, media and stuff is going to be a big catalyst.
Well, yeah, you know, that's great about Joy Campbell. I'll have to get him on the show and have a bit of a talk to him. That'd be great. I mean, that'd get that crowd in. And that's what we need. We really do. And it's good motivation. Yeah, that'd be great to have a Full Circle meeting. I've got to talk to Ian and see what's going on with AB7. I know he hasn't finalized all the speakers yet. And I've got so much stuff on. I'm traveling from here to Mexico. Then after Mexico, I've got to go back to Australia. I've got all these speaking days in Australia. Then I'm coming back to Peru. Then I go to do Free Your Mind in Philadelphia, and then AB America with Ian after that. and back to Peru, and then possibly, like you say, to you, and then Spain. There's also a talk, if I do go to Spain in May, there's also a talk I can do in Ibiza at that time that they've asked to come to if I'm in the area.
Oh, great.
There's all sorts of possibilities. So that'd be great to catch up with them. And Full Circle Project, I mean, that's exactly what it's about. You know, it's a mechanism that you can use to find in the area. I've been saying this on every one of my radio shows, on all the interviews that I've been doing. You know, that's what it's all about. And the reason it isn't really active online is because it's not about being online. It's about getting offline. It's all you really need Full Circle Project online for is to connect with people and form this local action group. And it's so empowering around you that they're on the same wavelength. You know, if you don't have a support group around you, you feel isolated. But as soon as you've got that support group, it's incredibly inspiring. You know, it's just so inspiring, and we can push it forward and realize that it's all abuse of office. All the problems that we're facing are abuse of office. This is what I've been calling for a really long time now, as you know. You know, abuse of office. Imagine when you've got all the fracking community looking at the legislation, which has actually created the problem to begin with, rather than trying to address the fracking companies, looking at the legislation and calling abuse of office. And you've got the people trying to combat mandatory vaccines, looking at the legislation that created that and calling abuse of office on that. But all of these different aspects of society, all these different problems that we've identified, but what you do is you go for the legislation that's created the problem. And it comes from all these different grass fires all around the community, different issues they're addressing, but they're all going for the head of the snake, which is the politicians in the mechanism of government which have created the legislation to begin with.
That's right. And they can start locally. They got local people that they can approach and influence them, educate them. They take it to the next guy and say, hey, what's going on? Did you ever see this information? And it can snowball it from that instead of necessarily going right to the top.
Exactly. Right? That's how it works. You know, you start around, and we can all do it in our own communities. You know, if you can put down your stuff with people and have respect for people around you and unite with them, you can become a strong communal voice, and you can just call out this abusive relationship we have with them. Pretty simple, you know. Like, it's really so simple to fix this problem. All the problems that we face if we united communities, and that's inbuilt respect that we should have for each other. That is the most essential thing that has been taken from us by this system, because we're kept in this competitive state all the time. We're all always at each other, and we're always vying for a little piece of the crumbs that are left for us, and we're always trying to secure our own little domain and keep the rest of the world at bay. You know, and it's this divide strategy, this and that's the biggest problem. You know, if we could put all that down, we could heal the world in a day. I really believe we could.
Yeah. I always imagine that if they stop the insanity, all the mechanisms that work, from geoengineering to, you know, the insane debt enslavement money system, it's, you know, just stop everything, you know, turn off all the insanity. I mean, the healing would be so freaking fast. But that's why they have to keep spraying the skies, keep turning up the EMFs. They've got to keep replacing it because it's only an imitation. It's not creative. We're creative. You leave us alone, we're great. We you know, and we're still thriving in spite of all this bullshit.
That's the thing. They've got to go to so much effort to keep us down. That's the thing, and that's a really important thought. You know, a lot of the problem is that people look for leaders. They still look for someone in authority to lead us out of this mess. They don't really realize what we're facing here. They don't realize the evil of these people. You know, those who control this system are so evil and so depraved, so little regard for humankind that there is no remedy in anything that they do. You can't yield to their better side. I mean, sure, you can love them because, you know, it's not good to hate anyone. That's a negative emotion. And I don't hate them, love them, I pity them, but I'm not going to do what they say. You know, damn angry at what they do. You know, if I wasn't angry, I wouldn't do what I do. You know, but you can't expect to find a remedy from these people. You can't expect to appeal to their better side. What you've got to do is just call it out for what it is. You know, we've got a criminal cartel that's running this entire world into the ground at the expense of the human rights and everything else. And it's time we still there and hashtag our employees write rubbish on pieces of paper and call it law. You know, it's when we wake up to ourselves.
Yeah. And they're the leaders. The leadership's inside of each individual. So that's what people have been trained to do, is give away their sovereignty, their own personal strength that would so empower them to realize that each of us are leaders. But by responding to consciousness, by responding to the need at hand, like you said, it's a war. It's a war on for humanity, for its consciousness, for its very existence, and it's a survival issue. I mean, that's why I do what I do. All of us would rather be playing music and, just celebrating life all day, every day. I mean, we do anyway, but we have to attend to business at hand. There's no shirking it. And I know you probably feel the same way, but I'm losing my patience with people, my tolerance for people who don't respond. They know better. They listen and oh yeah, that's really important. And because they're listening and they get it, they think that's enough. But we have to push it. We have to take it to the next level. And like you're saying, get involved. I mean, if people don't have community for the stuff that's coming, when the economic pillars start pulling out, which they're virtually imploded already, they're going to need other people. They're going to need community. They're going to need gardens. They're going to need friendship, love, companionship, understanding. And now's the time to build that. And people need to do whatever it takes, whether it might mean moving. It might mean, breaking down old pride and talking to people you don't even know and asking questions. But it's a matter of survival now. This is an extermination going on, and it's no joke. It's coming at us from every which way from Sunday. And that's why, I mean, you and I are so passionate about this. It's not by choice. It's almost by obligation. It's by a conscious awareness. We have to respond. There's nothing else to do. There's nothing else to live for, as far as I'm concerned, or there will be nothing for us, for our kids, our grandkids, the dear people getting slaughtered around the world, losing their families. It's serious stuff. You take it on, and it's almost more than people can handle. But we have to face it. We have to see what's really going on.
Well, we do, and that's the thing. You're standing on the train, and you're standing on the train tracks, and the train's coming. It doesn't matter what sort of a comfortable bed you build for yourself; the train's still coming. And that's the issue. There's no way to get around it. And you can't blame people as well. I mean, I get frustrated as well that people don't wake up. I suffer endless attacks from people. Causing me to believe that I'm on the track, because I'm just like, this whole webpage is dedicated to me now, calling me out as a shill and all sorts of stuff. So I know I'm on the right track.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you don't get this way, But unfortunately, with the chemtrails and all the spraying that goes on in the sky, one of the ingredients is lithium. Lithium makes people stuff, and you can tell them something, and it's really important, and it's really important to them for 5 minutes, and then they just get distracted by something in a shop window, and suddenly it's gone. It's just left their head completely, and they're off on another track, and then their phone rings, and they get a text message, and then their favorite show comes on TV, and then they just forget. And you can't really blame them. It's the training that they get, the television programming that they receive, the education that they receive, and the respect for authority that's been embedded within them. Constant fear dripping in the back of people's minds. I mean, it's always there, this fear of scarcity. Everyone lives on the edge of scarcity all the time, because of this money system. We've got to pay to be alive, so we're always on the edge of scarcity. We're always on the treadmill, so that's always in the foremost of our thoughts, is putting bread on the table and a roof over our heads. And even though all this other stuff's going on, I want to pay attention to it. Suddenly they're spraying the skies with, causing me to forget. And that's unfortunately the situation we're in. It's a very, very well constructed prison that we're in at the moment. So you can't really blame people, but the more it comes in people's faces, and the more, like in Australia with these mandatory vaccinations they've brought in, I'm glad. Bring it, because now you put it into people's faces. Now the average man on the street can't say it doesn't affect me, because now it does. Now you've got these trucks. Goons and all the stuff. People being searched for no reason. People, being tested for cannabis and stuff. If you're even in a room with someone who smokes cannabis, that can stay in your fat cell for up to 2 months. And there are people who don't even smoke cannabis who are being pulled over, who are testing positive and losing their licenses and all this stuff. In Australia, if you lose your license in Australia, you don't have massive transport systems and all that stuff that they have in all these other European countries. Australia's a big place. Got 26 people, over the size of Europe. So, if you have a car in Australia, you're basically imprisoned in your house. Supermarkets can be, hours, walks away. It's ridiculous. So you basically are in your own house if you lose your license. So, people are seeing it now. It's coming to them. It's right in their face. It's right in their backyards. The question is, are they going to allow it to continue, or are they going to stand up and call it out? Because, it's obvious around criminals now, and this is going back to Gaza all the time. And people are probably sick of hearing me talk about Gaza. I speak about it ad nauseum because it's a war crime that's been supported by millions of politicians, which gives us the ability to arrest them all. Malcolm Turdfall here, or in Australia, who runs Australia, is a war criminal because he supports a country that's carrying out war crimes. Same in the US, same in England, same in Europe. All these countries, they're all war criminals under their own law. So how does anything that they enact become valid when it can be shown that they're war criminals? And it can by their own actions if we were to stand up and call it. So there's all sorts of mechanisms here we can use to heal this situation if we can just see it and stand up and call it. That's all it would take is to realize that government isn't this big mechanism. Government is just people, just little people like you. In fact, there's no such thing as little people. That's a myth. Everybody has value. Everybody is just as worthy as everybody else. And the people in government are who carry out the crimes, not government itself. Government's a fiction. But we always, the government carries out an action and we go for the action. We attack the action rather than confronting the individual who created the action by the abuse that they carried out. It step one a little bit further up the food chain and go to the root cause of the problem and call it. If we do that, by realizing that it's just a man in a suit, it's just a guy that we actually employ and put into a position of management and expect to act responsibly, who's actually carrying out a abusive relationship with us, So in this abusive relationship, and we refuse to call it, we keep looking for remedies, we keep feeling like we're little people, we're kept on the edge of scarcity, so we're always driving on the treadmill in a state of fear. Put it on, pull it down. This is a temporary experience. Life is a beautiful but fleeting moment, and it's what you do with it. So step into it, embrace it, be who you are, and call these scumbags out for what they are. We heal the world in a day. I keep saying that, and you know that, and that's why it becomes so frustrating, because you can see how simple it is. Yeah, that's right. The problem. It's like Bill Mollison says in that quote that I get from you all the time, that the problems are so complex, but the solution is so incredibly simple that it's just ridiculous that people can't see it. People can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah. It's funny. I say the same thing about whatever it takes to wake people up, bring it on, because obviously it's going to take a 2x4, if not a 4x6, for a lot of people to snap to, like you're saying. Now there's some drill going on. I was just reading they're breaking down doors in England to show people, the police are breaking them down to show how easy it is to break in their homes as if to prevent robberies. It's all conditioning. It's just freaking insane. And so people get used to it. But whatever it takes, and that's what makes activists. You hear about people all the time. They lost a child to a vaccine, or something drastic happened, and they said, "That's it. I can't go on in life like this, knowing what I know now." So the more that happens, the better. It's creating momentum. Unfortunately, it often has tragic beginnings, but that's the truth. We're living in a tragic situation, and it's creeping paralysis.
So it's like, they're coming from all angles. They're coming from all angles. There's a guy who went down to visit someone over Christmas, I think, to visit his mother or something like that in Sydney. He drove from one town to another, and they stopped at a truck stop. He's a little parent. Stopped at a truck stop and slept in the car on the way down. And the police came and investigated him. Why are you sleeping at a truck stop? Whatever. And I asked him a bit and didn't go on his way. And then on the way back, he stopped and slept at the same truck stop. And the police came and confiscated his daughter because they said he was an unfit parent. He was simply sleeping in his car between his town and his parents' place. And it's like 2 months later or something, or 6 weeks later, he's trying to get his daughter back. So this is it's ridiculous. They broke into a house a couple of weeks ago as well, thinking it was a crystal meth lab. They had the wrong house. They kicked the door in, terrorized parents, put the husband in hospital, terrorized the children, and then realized they had the long address and just sort of laughed it off and said, a bit of excitement for the morning, and went off to the other house and received no charges. The guy's in hospital. This is the lengths they're going to. So, it's coming. It's in everybody's face. And Australia is very much proving ground for all this. So, really, you've got to watch where it's going. If this doesn't wake people up, I don't know what will. The real is of it lapsing into violence rather than indignation and defiance is really what it should be. Just righteous It's, you know, strong,
Right.
united, simply stand and saying, "No, we're not going to do this anymore." And not only
That's
that,
right.
we're going to
Civil
hold you accountable.
disobedience.
Yeah,
That's
civil
right.
disobedience. And we're going to hold you accountable. You're only just as criminals and we prove it, you know.
Yeah. No, it's the truth. It's sad that it takes that, but in a way, you know, it's the reality we're living in. We can't avoid it. It's like these new agers who want to go off and say love and light. And, you know, the answer is just live in that alternate world and everything's going to be okay. Well, okay, there's a place for consciousness and conscious awareness and spirituality, but the reality is we're living in human bodies. We are here. And these people are trying to corral us, manipulate us, and even exterminate us. Do we just sit back and take it? And one of the things they're doing, part of their agenda, I know you're aware of, is they're trying to provoke us. They are the ultimate agents provocateurs. They're trying to get this stuff started. The Bundy incident in Oregon, anything they can do, white versus black, create tension, divide and conquer. They're just rubbing it until they can get a fire, from the friction. And unfortunately, the people who have not picked up on what's really going on and understand the dynamics of it, they're queued up to get, on the pool table to just get manipulated quite easily with the first spark of violence. And all that would take, that would take hardly anything. I mean, you stop the trucks for a day for some reason and, the food dries up or, whether it's economic or geopolitical or the police just, causing it on their own. When people aren't aware of the agenda, they're going to fall into these traps, and that's only going to exacerbate everything. It's going to be something to, at least those of us who are aware can be aware and share that awareness with as many as possible, as lucidly as possible, and as often as possible, so that there'll be a sane element and hopefully a growing element of sanity that's getting what's going on and won't fall for these tricks. But as you said, this is what they do. They put their full-time energy into it. But I always console myself that we do this out of love. We do this full-time because this is who we are. We're alive, human love and consciousness. We are committed to this. These guys are hired thugs, all of them, A to Z. They do this for a living. They do it for a hobby. They do it for, maybe except for some of the really super possessed whack jobs, and the super psychopaths. But most of them are just employed, paid mercenaries, just like the fake terrorists in the Middle East. They're just paid employees. And in a way, I mean, that also leads you to the point, these are people that have potential to wake up. But my point is that they're not really as much to fear as people think. We have so much more power. We have commitment. We have compassion. We have conviction. They don't have conviction. They just have force and fear and weapons. That's why they have to dress in these stupid outfits, like you were saying, which they've predicted in movies for years and years, just to condition people and all that programming stuff. But anyway, we need to remind ourselves that our magnificence, our incredible power that we each represent, and help awaken it in other people, which is, that's what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, and the whole New Age theme and all this love and light stuff, yeah, it's a fine attitude to have, but you've got to apply it to the physical world, like you say. You're in a 3D reality for a reason. Could be because you're supposed to participate. So, all these New Age understandings, there's a lot of really, really good stuff in New Age movement, but then it leads you into this little bubble of what I call spiritual narcissism, where it becomes all about focusing on the inner self, not realizing that we're all part of the self. There's only one self, and we're all part of the self, and there'll never be freedom for the individual while the rest of the self is still enslaved.
Right.
And once you've got these love and light understandings, this should cause you to open your hearts and embrace your relationships with people around you. But you see so much falseness in the New Age movement. Everyone's pretending to love each other, and they're all smiles and cuddles, but behind closed doors, they're biting each other's heads off and backstabbing each other and all sorts of stuff. So it's not really the way forward at all, and it's causing people to miss out on this physical reality. They're all too concerned with preparing themselves from the right energetic state to deal with the next reality. But what makes you think you're even going to go to the next in this one? You know,
Yeah.
all for a savior. What makes you think you're worthy of saving if you're not prepared to take responsibility for your surroundings? You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
who's worth saving in these
Yeah.
circumstances? Would
Yeah.
you want to come and save this race? All this race does is eat itself and indulge in tribal warfare and
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous. We're not doing properly. So it's because we don't respect ourselves. We don't know ourselves. And I really believe for those people who have a problem with others, it's because they don't respect themselves enough to really know themselves enough that they've got these issues with other people. Because when you truly understand yourself and you see your own perfection with all of your flaws, but it's still perfect at being you. You know, no one can be Zen Gardner better than you, brother. You know, so you're perfect at being that individual, that person. So where's the problem? You know, obviously being an individual is who you came here to be because otherwise you wouldn't be here. So where's the issue? And when you can see that in yourself and you can see that in others and discover that perfection, all the barriers break down.
That's right. That's right.
You know, the New Age movement doesn't teach people that. It leads them into this little bubble of narcissism, and it's ridiculous, and it's caused heaps of problems. I mean, this is what happened with the war movement in the 1960s. You know, the New Age movement got involved, and suddenly everyone thought they could sing themselves to safety and hug all the police officers and all, just go away. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've got to find a way out of this, and I think this is the year we're going to make a difference. I really do. You know, whatever it is that brings people together, do it. But make sure it's unity. Make sure that there's unity. We need unity. There's been so much division and so much animosity lately in the alternate media and in the independent media, the truth movement, whatever you call it. Everyone's at loggerheads with each other. We've got to put all this stuff down. I've been saying to people, just put your rabbit holes down for the moment and pay attention to your surrounding and unite one strong voice, and then we can actually find out what's really going on. Because until then, we don't have freedom to know shit. We don't know anything. We only know what we don't know. I mean, you know,
it's like the closer we're getting to real fruitful endeavors, the more trip-offs they are that are distracting people. And I'm shocked at how many people are falling for it and getting into these little fights over the stupidest things and diverted. I mean, there's people getting into the Muslim hatred thing. There's people taking sides against the Bundys because, you know, we need to, it's a form of terrorism. There's strange outcroppings because we're getting really close. The distractions are more intense and more clever. And as you know, there's a lot of shills and plants inside the alternative media trying to do this very thing, which we should recognize right off the bat. Wait, put it down, forget it. This isn't the right thing. We're not going the right place for this. But it unfortunately, it's, you know, the negative gets I think dwelt on too much, but it's got to be in perspective. And this thing about the New Age movement, I find it interesting. That's a kind of a broad brush term because, you know, there's great people everywhere, and it's kind of, but we know what we're talking about. But this thing about the dark side, love and light, and they're, you know, just, you know, leave this dark thing away. Everybody's got dark things. If we can't confront the stuff in ourselves, we're not going to see it in the world either. So there is this sort of self passage that we have to go through that dark night of the soul, and a lot of realizations to get freer and freer, more realized, but without losing track of why we're here. That one does not negate the other. So
exactly,
it turns into you know, just the love and light thing, and everything's going to be cool if you chant enough. Fine, let's contribute to the positive vibrations as much as possible, but let's have a realistic approach that's the holistic and takes everything into consideration, because we have to we're going through transitions, everybody, personally and collectively. Like you said, we're all the same self, this mycelium of humanity, and it's a fabulous thing. It's something to be proud of and excited about, but it's a journey. And to me, something that's struck me lately is I think the most important quality for anybody to have at this point is determination. Because if you have that, you know you're going to make it through whatever you're confronting. I'm kind of speaking in general terms, people going through personal changes, because I read a lot about this in the comments and emails of stuff people going through. There's a lot of confusion. I mean, they're turning up the weirdness really high right now, and it's distracting and confusing and discouraging people. But it's a time to, if you know you're determined and you're going to, no matter what, see this through, it gives you great peace, great peace. And, you know, obviously the fear of death is ridiculous. I mean, everybody's going to pay that price ultimately. So what did you spend it on? What did you spend your life on? Just being afraid and not wanting to lose your life? Well, that's no way to live.
Exactly. You know? Ultimately, you came here to die. You know, it's what you do between now and then. You know, it's the information that you gather. So there should be no fear of death at all. You know, and the dark side, people's refusal to embrace the dark side, it's a failure of knowledge of how to process light, because all information is light. It doesn't matter whether it's darkness or whether it's what you call light. It doesn't matter whether the information is good or negative. It's only good or negative because of the emotional content that you add to it. You know, what it is, it's just information. You know, and if you are not willing to identify a problem, then you can't heal that problem. Every problem is an opportunity for growth. It's an opportunity for healing. But unless you're prepared to look at that problem and confront that fear within you, which prevents you from addressing that problem will never be healed. And maybe that problem exists simply for you to heal it by facing it. And you won't do that till you confront those fears in yourself. You have to face the dark side. You have to face the shadow. You
and you have to be willing to take action. You know, it's not just a mental exercise of, you know, oh, I see it now and everything's cool. It always has implications in people's personal lives. That's the steps that, you know, that's where the liberation sets in, when your feet actually move according to your newfound discovered convictions, and you move your butt from where you're living, or you start getting rid of junk, like I always say, physical stuff out of your life, memorabilia that's just taking you backwards instead of forward, you know, hang-ups, self-image issues. These are very easily, more easily overcome by taking action and mixing it up and exercising the new you in public, you know, with people, not just online. And that's, I mean, you've seen it, I've seen it. It's the most liberating thing there is. And I just hope people get the heart and start putting feet to their intentions, because that's the next step. We can't just sit around intending without doing.
Yeah. Action's what it's all about, you know, and that's what we're facing here. I mean, it's all thought. Everything that we've got here is a product of imagination. People just had these ideas. They conversed their ideas to somebody else. It resonated, and then they put it into action, and that became a reality for everybody else. But, you know, we're all able to have these thoughts, and we're able to put them into action. It may be as simple as going and meeting the neighbor and having a conversation with him, and suddenly this great idea comes up. It resonates with the guys next door, and suddenly it becomes reality for the whole world. That's how it comes about. Everything that we've got here is a product of imagination by people simply putting their ideas into action because they were prepared to act. You know, too often we're willing to identify a problem and identify who created the problem. We'll point the finger at them, then we'll expect someone else to fix it. You know, we're not prepared to act ourselves. We're not prepared to put our own thoughts into action. We'll have these thoughts, we'll tell someone else about them, we want them to put them into action, or someone to do it for us. Someone to look after us. We leave our parents and we instantly look for new parents, namely government, and then we get nannied for the rest of our lives. It's ridiculous. You know, people want freedom, but they don't want responsibility. They don't realize you have one without the other. And that's what freedom is being totally responsible.
That's right.
That's the thing.
It's like mass codependency. The whole abuser and the abused. Well, they're both just as guilty in that game. People spend their time blaming the other. It's a cycle perpetuated generation to generation. It's all through society. I just published something a couple of days ago about the Stockholm Syndrome. Somebody applied it to
I was just going to mention people.
How people,
great minds think.
There you go.
I mean, we know how corrupt these rulers are. We all complain about our politicians. When we see, oh my God, he's in town. Oh my God, he's so wonderful, and we go and suck up to them, and we know they're criminals. What is that? You know, if that isn't Stockholm, I don't know what is. You know,
exactly, and it goes right down the line. And like you're saying, people happily delegate their sovereignty, but you know, their initiative, all the gifts, all the wonderful gifts they give to somebody else to take care of it for them. And it goes way back. I mean, there's something for people to really look into, codependency, research it, because it's so deep in society, and we're raised with it. You know, all of us were abused as kids in one form or another. And like I say that, I think the worst form is spiritual abuse, but there's all kinds. And we spend the rest of our lives trying to find mommy and daddy and the love we thought we should have had, you know, since we were very little, and all these kind of things. They're real. These are real things, but they're actually easily identified if we're willing to look at it, and we're willing to see how our personalities have been sculpted by this insanity. And when you see how it's wound its way into your life, and it causes this kind of dependency, please, I need help, this helplessness. And it's not to say we don't need each other. We need each other more than ever, but it's not in this dependent, sticky, screwed up, psychotic state. But it's woven into everything. Yeah, but the Stockholm Syndrome, I think, to me is that just nails it. It just nails it. This whole thing.
Well, it is. I mean, that's what we've got here, and it's amazing, in countries, some of the most downtrodden countries, you can still see this. And even when I'm saying downtrodden countries, I'm kind of referring to countries such as England and Australia and America.
And America, exactly.
Like these people are way more downtrodden than they understand. And I prefer to live in the third world. I'm here in Peru, and I feel a lot. I mean, they got basically a paramilitary government here. All the police have got machine guns, and the police are not nice, and they'll, if you do the wrong thing by them, they'll just probably take you somewhere and shoot you. But I feel a lot safer here than I do in Australia or England or America, because in that country I know I can get put into that meat grinder and basically tortured the way they do. I mean, getting anywhere into that legal system, it's got to the point in Australia where if someone stole your wallet, you wouldn't even want to report the crime, because you don't want to put someone into that legal system, put someone into that prison system. You're ruining someone's life in every way possible by simply reporting a crime now, because that's how corrupt our legal system and prison system has become. So
which is their intention,
of course,
keep you not doing it.
Yeah, of course. So it's pretty scary what's happened in Western countries, and it's pretty scary that we're just letting it happen. So, but all the knowledge is out there. We've got all these new age understandings now. We've got all this spiritual growth that we've gone through and all this stuff. If we just do choose to apply it to the world, we can make a difference. And again, full circle project. There's a mechanism you can use to do it. If you're somewhere and you want to get active and you want to make a difference, but you don't have a support group, go and log onto the project and find some people in your area. And if there isn't a group in your area, then create one. It's really that simple. And like you say, there's 15,000 people signed up to it now, and it's growing all the time. The numbers are just getting more and more and more. So get involved on the ground, and we can make a difference. And this is we've got to do it. We've got to call these people out. And it's doing something. It's taking initiative. That's why guerrillas could hold whole armies at bay, because they could call the shots. And these big cumbersome armies, they couldn't move all their equipment, and they had all these logistics and had to feed everybody. And these guys could scatter around the hills and hold them at bay because they got freedom of movement. They can call the shots. And we're very much that type of a movement ourselves. And we are having a massive effect. It's not always that easy to delineate, but these guys are having to change their plans because of the alternative media calling them out for what they're doing. And new people are waking up all the time. You don't have to even see that. You can feel it, but there's manifestations all over the place. But if putting it in action by contacting other people, Absolutely.
I mean, that's what, when you first called me about Full Circle, I've been thinking the same way for years. And people got to meet up. They got to hook up. And here's an avenue. Here's a mechanism. Here's a very simple, it's something in the right direction. Just get your boat in motion, like I like to say, and the rudder will take effect. Stop worrying about where it's going. Just be willing to step in the boat and push off from shore, and the rudder, then you're going to start finding out where you're supposed to be going. But if you're not moving, you're not going to get any direction. So I'm like you. I'm always proud in people, to start to hook up, and then the fever kicks in, then you start contacting other people. And things happen. The synchronicity kicks in, the enthusiasm kicks in, the confidence, the new connections, and a whole new world opens up to you. And I think also one of the things on Full Circle that's really powerful is groups are finding each other. I mean, this is still, that's not as necessarily as easy, because each group kind of has its own thing going on, and movements and ideas, and many of which are really wonderful things going on. But that's another one of our intentions, is to help even those groups connect with each other, share resources, share ideas, it's important, like you said, that this call to unity is really, really massively important. And it's going to mean laying down a lot of pride. Most of us have more pride than we'd ever realize. And I mean, we all do. Pride's it's a disguised, cloaked little bastard. But it's these kinds of things, they break down walls, and people change, and the dynamics change, and new ideas come out. So there's anyway, if everybody listening can't tell, do get on Full Circle. Tell other people about it, and have suggestions, send them in. It's in the making, but it's got legs, and like they say, it's an idea whose time has come. And if you got a better idea, go for it, because there's an awful lot that needs to be done. Darn.
Well, there is, and if you've got a better idea, bring it into Full Circle and share it with other people. If you've got a better idea, bring it in and create a group in your area and put that idea into motion, because again, it's about putting thoughts into motion. That's what it's all about. That's what's created all this mess, folks, is people putting thoughts into motion. People being prepared to act on the moments that they have and on the ideas that they have. But we've been trained to believe that we're little people. We can't have these ideas, but we can, because everybody's the same. It's just people here. There's just people. There aren't any little people. There aren't any big people. There's just people who within mechanisms that look big, like it's a cloud. It's just people who have ideas and they put them into motion. Unfortunately, they've got a mechanism by which they can write their ideas on paper, and they can put a rubber stamp on them and have some other associate sign off on them and call them law, and we're all going to go along with it.
And everybody bows down to the piece of paper. Yeah,
it's a joke, isn't it? We live in a paper-based reality. It's a paper-based matrix. It really is. It's a paper-based matrix, and the respect that we have, the unwavering respect we have for the written word. What is that? You could get the biggest lie you want and write it in a book and publish it. And people go, oh my God, look, it's in the book.
It's a book.
It must be true. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible.
It is.
I wonder what it would have been like if we had never developed writing and we just communicated things orally, whether things would have ever got as way off the mark as what they have. Because, I mean, right now, like you say, with all these conspiracies and trying to look at the controlling hand and identify who is really to blame. I mean, sure, we can identify the banking system as the catalyst that holds it together. But when you get above that, if you want to start getting into whatever, like Jesuits or Jews or Illuminati or reptilians or whatever it is you want to get into, hey, give me a day to put together a slideshow. I can prove it's anybody you want. The information's out there to do it, and there's a reason it's out there to keep us distracted from our own personal power and how quickly we could actually call this out. And ultimately, my belief, and I've been pushing it for 8 years, is that it's the divide and conquer mechanism. That's the most important thing. It's the stuff we have with each other, the stuff we have with our neighbors, the way we measure ourselves by the size of our front door, what we look like, what we dress like, how much we got in the bank. And it's all bullshit. It's all fiction. None of it's real. You're a perfect expression of creation just the way you are, and so is the guy next door, no matter what you think of him, no matter what he dresses like, no matter what his music is, no matter what his programming is ultimately, because that's what it is. I mean, if we were left to our own devices and we didn't have the written word and we didn't have this education, we didn't have mirrors, and we didn't have all these social standards by which to judge ourselves and measure ourselves by, why would we develop all this stuff with each other? Why would we not live in a cooperative society if we weren't trained, competitive, and kept in a constant state of scarcity and shortage, and all of these ridiculous parameters by which to measure ourselves by? Why would we ever judge ourselves as being anything but perfect,
Exactly. The veil comes off. It's so strange. It's this whole dichotomy of seeing things in spiritual terms, yet how extremely practical they are when you really grasp what spirituality really is. And like you're saying, communication, I mean, think about the power of intuition and how that's been snuffed out, and it's so much our connectivity to the earth, to consciousness, this intuitive life force method of communication. It's like telepathy. Innately, it's like, you and I finding this same word at the same time or moving in the same direction. I mean, okay, you can say we're using our minds and we're following a mental path, but it's more than that. There's a spiritual dynamic that's going on, but one does not preclude the other. these things have to be balanced. What's exciting about the spiritual to me is when people tap into it, they're going to find new resources, and they become aware of exactly what you're saying, this connectivity. When you're aware of that, it's extremely empowering. And it's even quantum physics talks about it, but where do you see that addressed in modern society? How do they take that information about, like the whole slit experiment, and the fact that things happen at the same time, and the whole breakdown of reality isn't as we have previously perceived it in the Newtonian world. It is different. Well, that should be immediately applied to our social interactions. Our connectivity between each other. We have so many things. We don't need all these laws because we have this natural law inside of us. We'll just let it out, and we'll finally listen to some of the teachings of the sages of the past, and and the great shaman teachers and the native peoples, realizing, oh, they said this all along, and now we're going to connect the two. And it's happening in science. The spirituality is coming in a lot of the new science discoveries. They're realizing, hey, there's a lot of truth to all this stuff, like the holographic aspect and all this kind of stuff. But really putting them together, they're not going to do it for us. They're like you're saying about books. Well, look what kids get handed in school, and because it's in the book, it's the truth, and they just shut down their brain. It's really sad, but those are all techniques to put out this conscious awareness, this incredibly empowering knowing that we communicate intuitively in a language that is more precious than anything there is. It's the power of love. It's however you want to describe it. And I maintain, I say this a lot, this is where we need to move. This is where we need to grow. And like you said, imagination is another term. It's, I put up a quote, I just saw a quote by John Perkins in my notes. He said, everything begins with a dream. Because we are manifesting. So when people have these creative impulses, they can apply it as practically as what you're saying. Get together, meet other people. And I like to tell people, start a blog, write, meet people, and then go out and find, meet them online, find out who you are, broadcast your truth, but get out and meet people. Keep pressing it. Anyway, it's actually a pretty simple message, isn't it?
It is. It's a pretty simple message, Zen. You're dropping out a little bit there. I think the bandwidth is going. You may hear some dogs going in the background as well.
Yes, we get that.
But yeah, it is, man. And people have to apply their New Age understandings to the physical world. You can marry it all together. And science and spirituality will never be answered. You'll never answer the questions posed by either of those different directions until you marry them each together. Neither can be explained without an understanding of the other. And scientists are beginning to realize this. And the thing is that the ancient masters, they all start from the concept that we are all one, that it's a holographic universe, that it's all energy-based. They know all that. And we need science to lead us through the steps to discover that so that we can then start to figure out who we are. But they actually start from that point, knowing that we're all one and this is the way it goes. So,
and the very nature of science will never get you there. You can't get there with your brain and your mind. It's beyond mind. So they'll never come to the right conclusion no matter what they discover. It's experiential.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you
Not until they're prepared to bring it all together.
What's that?
Not until they're prepared to bring it all together. They won't ever find the answers that they're looking for.
Maybe that's what death is all about. Say, okay,
well,
here's a little hint. Here's what it's like on the next level. Now, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen after that, but it by no means is it the end of life. But okay, that was your chance, and that's where the whole karma thing comes from. You get recycled. Okay, you made it to this level on the computer game. Maybe next time you can go another level or two. Or now here's a few hints. Now go back. You might forget this for a while, but it's not a bad analogy.
Yeah, I fully believe in reincarnation and karmic debts and all that sort of stuff. I really do. Just from some of the stuff that I've experienced in ceremony, some of the dreams I've had, some of my own experiences in life tend me to believe that reincarnation is real. Whether we're recycled, whether we're trapped here, whether all sorts of things. There's so many things that people speculate on that we just don't know the answer to. What my argument is that we need to establish the freedom to find out. I think we've got a real opportunity for freedom here. But, the system is so in everybody's face. Never before in history has it been in everybody's face like this. And You know, a lot of the reason people are losing their spiritual understandings and their intuition and all this sort of stuff at such an early age, I believe, is because of the digital world that's been imposed over them. You know, this instant communication that they've all got now from as soon as they're old enough to know how to text someone, know how to use a mobile phone or an iPad or a Nintendo, then they're locked into a virtual world. And this tends to shut down all of your natural abilities, I believe. I really do. I think we take to it so naturally like a fish to water because we can do this already. You know, if we had our pineal open and our higher senses were online, we'd already have this instantaneous communication. We'd already have connection to source. We'd already know all that there is to know. I mean, all memory is encoded in water. We can access water through the water in our bodies if we had higher senses. There's ways around it if we're allowed to be free, you know, and there's so much effort undertaken to prevent us from being free. And people, if you think that all these toxins are in your food and the fluorides in your water and the aerial spraying and the electromagnetism and the vaccines and all this stuff, if you think they do this to help you, then you've got rocks in your head. You really have. You know, like all of this stuff is done to limit the human experience, to limit human potential, to keep you from ever discovering who and what you are. So now's the time. Now all this is being revealed. So now we at last have an opportunity to heal it. If people are just prepared to face the darkness, face the dark side, it's there. And if you don't face it, guess what? It's going to take over.
It's going to face you.
Because you didn't take the opportunity to heal it. Because you refuse to look at it. It's like you've got an ulcer growing on your skin and you refuse to look at it and you end up getting your arm amputated because you wouldn't put a Band-Aid on this sore that was festering in your arm because you didn't want to look at it because it was too uncomfortable to look at. It's ridiculous. That's right. You know, there's a festering cancer growing in humanity, and we have an opportunity to heal it. First time in history, and this, therefore, is the first time in history we've ever had for real freedom. You know, if you look through history, we've never had it. We've never been free, ever. You know, little pockets of humanity may have been free to a certain aspect, some little tribal village living in the jungle somewhere that nobody ever contacted. But you know, as a species, we've never been free. We've never been able to express ourselves to the fullest of our potential, the fullest of our creative potential. And our creative potential is off the charts. Imagine if we work cooperatively. I mean, look what the mess we've created. Think what we could create if we worked cooperatively. The sky's the limit. Absolutely. We are off the charts. We can't even imagine what
immediate abundance, solutions, harmony. I mean, there'll be issues, and there's always going to be, you know, quirks and stuff. But when you've got the preponderance of people working in harmony, these things stick out like a sore thumb, and everybody knows what to do.
And it's off the charts. Our creative potential is off the charts. And we've got the first time in history we have a chance to express that. If we're just prepared to unite, put down our stuff with each other, put down our rabbit holes, call the system out, turn and face the darkness, call the system out and say, hey, humanity, we're going to go in this direction now. Let's go. Let's go to a place of abundance, because that's what this is. This is like the Garden of Eden. It's a planet of abundance. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. And it could be anything we want it to be. You know, so now's the time. We've just got to be prepared to act on it. Be prepared to put down our stuff. And now's the time. Now's the time to call out. This is the best opportunity we've ever had. We must not squander this opportunity.
That's right. You know, in spite of all they're doing, the spraying and all the insanity, Earth thrives. I mean, like they say, nature bats last. But Earth is thriving. And not that we shouldn't do everything to stop the insanity, but Earth is thriving. It's interesting. You were talking about, you know, the invasion on our bodies with, you know, chemicals, fluoride, vaccines, all the stuff that's designed to shut down our systems. But in light of what you said about water and how powerful water is, all they're doing is diluting the water. They can't really change the nature of water itself. They can wrap molecules around it. Maybe they can, you know, things can be changed, but really that ultimate communication system stays in place, although it's diluted and confused. So I thought that was an interesting point when you brought up about water, because we still got our water. Hey, guess what? And the universe is full of it. The sun produces water, for goodness sake. There's water everywhere. It's not going to run out, despite the insanity and them shutting down these weather systems and stuff. The water will not run out. It'll always replenish. So take that.
Exactly. It just comes from precipitation. It just appears spontaneously in the sky, and the dew falls in the morning. So, yeah, they can't take that from us. You know, there's ways through this. There are There are ways through it, and I think we are going to rise to the occasion. I really do. You know, no matter how negative they make it, it's encouraging. It's inspiring, the fact that they're spraying the fluoride, they've got to go to so much effort to keep us locked down. I mean, that's inspiration.
Right.
That is just right. Look how much we're waking up anyway.
Yeah,
you know, waking up anyway. Because the more it is in people's faces, and the more they're going, the veil's falling off, and they're going, hang on a minute, well, what happened? You know. So, yeah, and then it's just, you know, people like you and I, we've got to be there to provide a safety net for people so they don't just lapse into violence and chaos. So they actually see that this is an opportunity.
Yeah. Channel it into something productive.
Yeah, this is a real opportunity. One of the greatest opportunities we've ever had. So let's embrace it, you know.
Right on, man. I think we're running right into the hour. And boy, brother, it's been great talking. It's so good to get caught up, and I could listen to you all day.
Yeah,
it's been really fun, man.
It's been great having a chat with you, Zen. I'll be happy to come on and do it anytime.
Oh, great! That'll be a lot of fun. I think we're gonna get stepped in on in a minute or two. I'll wait till Biggie appears. But wow, man, it's always great talking, Max, and I love how you formulate everything. And oh, he says we got more time.
Have we? Oh, have we? I didn't prepare for that. That's all.
I didn't either. Hey, Biggie, I'm not sure. I'm not ready either. I've got things coming up, but he can snip and cut, I guess. Except we're probably live radio. It's okay. Biggie says to everyone, no worries. Okay, not worrying. You speak Australian. No worries, mate.
Yeah, no worries, brother.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a really exciting time. That's the thing. But it does take some swimming. It takes a fight in people to keep their head above water. It's much more tumultuous now. We're in a cataract of change, and you know, I use these metaphors all the time. But it's you know, we're in it, but nobody's not in it. You know, this thing going on, there's nobody sitting on top of it just calling the shots that isn't feeling what's going on. These jerkwads that are trying to pull these strings, I mean, my goodness, they're not immune to this. They're like, people always say, what are they doing spraying the sky? Don't their kids breathe the same air? Yeah, they do. They're psychopaths. They don't know what the hell they're doing. But, you know, they're suicidal. They got the Samson option. You know, they'll take the whole house down with them rather than let us express ourselves fully as humanity. That's their intention. But we have other plans. We have other instructions, and we've got proof that it's real, and we're doing it, and there's nothing they can really do about that. They can try, but look how crude it is. I mean, my goodness. Thugs with sticks and guns, and then they tell you can't have guns because they're dangerous, and they get more guns. It's, you know, all these politicians guarded by gunmen. It's the insanity of it, and then people fall for it. And that, again, we're back to the Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. It really is. But yeah, no, we've got other plans. So I think that's just the way it's going to go, man. They're going to have to deal with our other plans. But as long as people can see this, it's the opportunity that it is, because it is. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's the greatest opportunity we ever had in history. And I think they're going to come through. I really do. No matter how much they try to make it negative, I don't think the human spirit's going to be squashed. I really don't. And once the kids get motivated and see what's going on, if we can just pull them away from their mobile phones and their, you know, teen magazines and whatever it is that they're feeding them these days, you know, they'll be a force to be reckoned with, you know. And like you say, there are a lot of young kids that are waking up as well, you know.
Yeah, look at us. That whole revolution that happened in the 60s, I mean, I was 19, I think, when I went to Woodstock, or 20. I don't know what I was. But the movement had power. It had impact. And of course, like you said, they adulterated it and screwed it all up with all the drug invasion and the mind control and stuff. But tried to derail it to keep it from being active and effective geopolitically. But look, it was just young people. There was a saying, "Don't trust anybody over 30." Remember that? We got it. We had woken up, you know, thanks to entheogens and you know, I mean, I spent my time in bookstores reading Krishnamurti and Herman Hesse and Alan Watts, and I couldn't get enough of that stuff once I woke up, and I wanted to understand what was going on here. Who am I? What's the point? What's the plan? But it immediately translated into, well, war is stupid. what are we doing going to war in Vietnam of all things? I mean, that was so obvious. And there was a massive movement, and that outcry had a massive effect. But now, what do you hear against the war? Nothing.
Yeah, I know. You don't. The kids are sitting there texting. That's the thing. You know, we've been desensitized through the movies and all the propaganda and the TV, everything that they've fed us, all the predictive programming. It's just become acceptable. You know, I mean, people who join the military because they think they're patriots and they want to help their country and they want to bring freedom to the world, they're doing exactly the opposite, So
yeah, it's sad.
And it's really sad to see the distraction. It's this, like I said, people's intuition and all of this stuff's been taken from them and it's been replaced with this digital world, this instant communication that they've got there now with that. So it's kind of replaceable, So you can't blame them. You got to identify it and see what it is and to find what the remedy is the way out of it, So that's the tricky part is finding what the remedy is to that can get to the kids and get them out of this digital world because they're brought into it so young now. We've got all this digital, that kids are given little digital things to play with when they're 3, 4 years old, so they're immersed into that world from a very, very young age.
Yeah.
And it's so pretty and so appealing. These things really appeal to our senses. They really appeal to our left brain, all these little structured things and little devices and computers, the way it all links together and all this stuff. It really appeals to our left brain. And it shuts down your right brain artistic ability. It shuts down your communication on intellectual or intuitive levels, not intellectual, but intuitive levels and spiritual levels. So it's finding a method to remove people from that. I mean, that's the tricky part, and that may take a generation. I mean, it's hard, to know how to find the way out of the mess. But what we've got to do, I believe, is get ourselves back to a point of safety in order to find a way. So we've got to identify this control grid for what it is. We've got to identify this catastocracy for who they are. We've got to use methods and little pieces of the legal system against itself, use certain aspects of the system against itself and maneuver ourselves back to a point of safety whereby we just stop it from moving any further forward and then find a way of rolling back what's already here. Now, but there's no instant fix for this. There's no instant remedy. There's no savior that's going to come. There's no special thing we can do or no form we can fill out that's suddenly going to change things. It's going to take a huge groundswell of motivated people that are willing to act and act respectfully, act with passion, but act respectfully by simply standing up and saying the honest truth, and not being cowed by anything that's written on paper. Of course, we've got this brick wall of stupidity between us and the politicians, namely the police, all in black Kevlar with machine guns, who it becomes very difficult to address the situation because they always get away. That's why protests are so ineffective. With these protests. And they're great for showing solidarity, but they don't go anywhere because you get met by this wall of stupidity and thugs who turn it into a violent scene, and you never get anywhere. People go march to the square, they stand up and they say all these wonderful speeches and sprout all this rhetoric, but nothing ever goes forward, and people go home and think they've actually made a difference. But they haven't. You've got to protest from where you are at home. You don't have to go and march on the street. You should be connecting with your neighbours and creating strong groundswells and ground toss in your community and grass fires in your community and standing up and calling this thing out as you see it. Calling
go knock on
the council meetings and shit, doing it there.
Yeah, exactly. Go knock on the door of your local mayor or whoever. Just go up there and say, hi. Want to say hi? Can we chat? We got a few questions. We've been discussing stuff. Or his best friend or, people are afraid to do that. They think, oh, who am I to do this? I need to be such and such. It's really this thing about the kids, to go back to what you were saying about technology, it's like it's a two-edged sword. Either you use it or it uses you, and it's very dangerous, like anything. But the fact that they have to now actually put implants in people, and this transhuman agenda is so obviously physical, and they have to intervene in the human body. It's just another manifestation of them trying to stamp out our consciousness and control it. But it shows how far they have to go to reinforce this crap. And that should be very empowering for people to realize that. They've got to actually do this. They've got to drug you. They got this. It's like Rasputin, man. They couldn't They tried to poison him. They shot him. They knifed him. They tried to drown him. The guy just kept living. We're like today's Rasputins. We just keep on kicking. It must be driving them nuts. But like you said, it's a dangerous, dangerous road that the kids are on. But that's their next step, is this transhumanism. Get them all hooked on these little attachments. Now they've got tattoos they want to put on, obviously for medical reasons. And yeah, as we know, that their crowning creation has always been this sort of a chip control thing inside of people. And
that's where they want to take it. And the digitizing of currency, Norway's talking about this now in Denmark.
Denmark
right. Talking about it, removing cash altogether. And China's talking about bringing in their own digital currency. If they manage to bring in digital currency, they've got us by the short.
Yeah,
it all comes control from that point, because they can switch anybody on and off at will.
That's right.
That's what they'll do. Suddenly you'll go to pay your rent and your thumbprint doesn't work or whatever, or your chip's turned off, and that's it. And it's all digital. You can't access your own wealth. All your wealth becomes virtual. It only exists in the virtual world. It's not physical gold or even paper that you can put in a safe or anything. It just always is credits in the virtual world. And so it can all just disappear because it's just virtual. It's not real anyway, which is interesting because it isn't real anyway, even in the real world.
I know.
It's just a fiction. So,
and they can do the same thing now. They can turn it off if they want. Say, oops. Or even in that digital world, they can say, oh, it was a mistake. We're sorry. Yeah, but you had a month without food and you couldn't pay your rent. And,
and suddenly you're out on the street.
We got hacked by the Chinese and everybody's money's gone. They can do any little chat. I don't want to give them any ideas, but
if they can just turn you off, they can go, oh, there's Zen Gardner. He's an activist. He's doing us a lot of damage. We'll just turn him off. Suddenly your bank account doesn't exist. You don't exist. You go to pay your rent. You go to use your credit card or go to use your passport or whatever, and it doesn't exist. You don't exist. You're not on the record anymore. So who is this non-person? You must be a dissident, so they just arrest you and you disappear into a black hole without charge or trial, and thanks for coming to the airport.
Exactly. Or some snitch. Anybody could say, oh, this guy next door, I smell pot, or I heard him talking about this, and they're going to have rewards for these pieces of crap.
Yeah, exactly. And in Australia, you can be arrested without charge or trial on suspicion. Yeah. You don't without any hard evidence, you can be arrested on suspicion. Of what? What do you mean suspicion? What sort of a charge is that? Suspicion. Suspicion of what? What, that I'm a male or what? Yeah. I mean, what am I suspected of doing or being? I don't get told what I'm suspected of. I don't get to face my accusers. I don't even have to get charged. Right. They put me in a black hole. That exists right now in Australia. Since 9/11, there's been 70 pieces of legislation that have been enacted, which has virtually removed every single right that we had from us. And that's a real issue. And the people from Australia are still buying into, it's got to be done because we've got all these terrible Muslims anywhere. And isn't it interesting how all Arabs are identified as Muslims? Even with the rapes or whatever in Germany, it's gangs of Muslims, not gangs of Arabs, not gangs of Syrians, not gangs of Africans, gangs of Muslims. How do you know what their religious persuasion is? I would suggest that if they're out raping women, they probably don't really follow any religion. But if we're going to refer to everyone with dark skin or anyone with a beard as gangs of Muslims, all these countries are referred to as Muslims. How come everyone from Europe and America and Australia and England aren't just referred to as Christians? Gangs of Christians did this. It's Christians bombing Syria. Why don't we do that? Why is it only turned into this religious hatred when it's against brown-skinned people? Why isn't it the other way around? It's an interesting program that's run there. They're always calls them gangs of Muslims. You even know them. They don't even know if they're Muslims. They don't know what religion they are. They could be atheists. They could be Christians. They could be Hindus. They could be anything. They just got brown skin. So it's a program, and people can't see this how they're being played either. But there's so many people buying into this Islamophobia, which is what's allowing this whole police state to be built. And honestly, as far as real, genuine Islam goes, I've never met a violent Islamic person. All the Islamic people that I've met have been beautiful people.
Same here.
This whole Wahhabi takfiri bullshit that we see raging across the Middle East that comes out of Saudi Arabia and these sort of countries, this is a Western invention. It's a perversion of Islam.
Exactly.
It's not Islam at all. I'm not pro any religion. I don't support any religion. I think they're all demented personally, and that's just my opinion. But, Islam, as far as I can see, and from the people that I've met, they've always been peaceful, honourable, gentle, hospitable people. You know, very, very courteous and very, very kind. And I think that people are being grossly misled with this.
Yeah, totally. I lived in Kuwait for 3.5 years, and I lived in 7 months in Iran right at the time Khomeini was about to come in, and I watched the whole collapse there. But everybody, I mean, the in Kuwait, the Arabs, they love their families, extremely respectful. I mean, there's the real idiots at the top, the elite fat cats who are just they're psychotic. but the cultures, the family environment, like you said, I didn't see any violence. Our best friends were all from all over. We had Iraqi friends, Syrian friends, Lebanese friends, Jordanian friends, Egyptian friends, and when I first got there, I couldn't tell one from the other. And afterwards, I knew exactly where I was and who was what, and it was fun because the cultures had these little nuances. But it was a wonderful experience, and I loved the desert on top of it. It was very, very romantic. I thought it was a really cool place. Not cool in the summer, but but I had the same experience. Beautiful, beautiful people. And so when people start getting their hackles raised about Arabs and Muslims, they don't know what they're talking about. They probably never met one, or all they see is they think a Sikh with a turban's an Arab. I mean, for goodness sake, they have no idea that it's a completely different part of the world, a whole different religion, but they just lump it together.
Yeah, it is. But I find it really interesting how the media is playing this, saying just calling any gangs of dark-skinned people are gangs of Muslims. I think it's an interesting program, and it's fascinating how people are buying into it. Even so many people in the alternate media are buying into it. Like, people who can look at like the Paris attack, for example, and they know it's a false flag. They know it was set up by government, and yet they're still buying into this whole Muslim menace.
Yeah, you're right.
9/11 was set up, but they're still buying into the Muslim menace.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm amazed at what I'm seeing come out of InfoWars. I mean, I don't patronize Alex Jones or InfoWars at all, but I keep an eye on what comes out. I don't really listen to it. Keep an eye on it, but they're really, really pushing this whole Muslim invasion thing. This whole Islamophobic thing. It's incredible. And even the radio station that I'm on, I tuned into the show before mine a few weeks ago and heard the owner of the station talking, and I was actually quite shocked and horrified at what he was saying. It was a massively Islamophobic show, saying how all Muslims are his enemies because he's a Christian and all this sort of stuff. And I'm thinking, well, really, I suppose that's what Jesus would say, isn't it?
Yeah, right. And all the Israelis are your best friends.
Yeah, well, no, he wasn't saying that, but it's a really weird thing. I mean, there's even people who can understand what Israel's doing and buy and really do not support Israel, that support Palestine, who are still buying into this Islamophobia.
Yeah,
there's radio hosts in Australia who support Palestine who are still saying we've got no Muslims should be allowed into Australia and all sorts of stuff like this. And these are people who support Palestine. So it's a really interesting programming, how deep it's run and how many people have bought into it. They really don't have really any understanding of what Islam is. And it boggles me, really. I don't know what it takes. I mean, maybe it's the lithium, I don't know. But how can you look at ISIS and know that ISIS is an Israeli setup, Western funded from the ground up, out there supporting the Great Israel Project, creating this whole situation, still the mess. It's remarkable. It's remarkable. It's like two diametrically opposed views that are running together. And sure, there are Muslim extremists out there doing unsavory things. There's religious extremists of all sort of denominations doing unsavory things. But how can you know that all these things are false flags? How can you know ISIS is run by Israel and yet still be claiming that there's a Muslim menace? It's a bizarre program. Maybe you can help me with that one, because I haven't figured out how people can have the two.
I've had the same reaction.
Use it at the same time,
yeah. And I saw the same articles as you on that site. It's like, it just shows, I think, it's a manifestation of people who don't really get it fully. And this enemy building is a manifestation of this sort of a negative orientation, because that guy there, he's really into that, a lot of sort of fear mongering as much as information is pretty good. But and people who tapped into that, they're going to fall into these little. It's like that game, you know, you turn these two wheels and the ball has to go around the holes through the maze. And we're getting towards the end, and there's more holes, and people are falling into the freaking things. And that's one of them. It's mind-boggling. I had the same reaction as you. It's like, how can you fall for that? It's right out of Orwell's book. You know, you've got to have the created enemy, and I forget the name of the enemy, and then, you know, they have 5 minutes of hate, and they scream at the screen. I mean, it's just going according to script, unbelievably. That people fall for it and can't identify the manifestations and the effects it's having on them. It's troubling, to be honest. It's but not everybody's falling for it, thankfully.
I wonder why. Everybody does it. I wonder why so many people are so asleep and some of us are so awake. That's something that's always fascinated me. I mean, I was awake from a really early hour.
Thank you for tuning into CCN. This unique network is dedicated to free and independent media. CCN was created with the belief that information is the common heritage of all beings, which is why our live stream high-definition broadcast is easily accessible and free to view. If we want to change the world, we must first change the media. Having produced over 1,000 shows in 2015, which are all archived on YouTube, we look forward to bringing you more groundbreaking, cutting-edge information in 2016. For more information on what is on, please check out our broadcast guide for weekly updates. CCN broadcasts in multiple languages and features some key voices of our challenging times who are all in pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world. CCN belongs to you, the people, and it is up to you all to keep this network on the air. Please contribute to the Network Support Fund or visit the CCN shop. We thank you all for supporting free and independent media.